Hello YouTube, my name's Dom. Hello YouTube, I'm Dom the musician, my name's Dom, I'm a musician. Here's my degree. In this series of videos, I'm looking at Murray Gold's music for modern Doctor Who Series 1 and exploring what makes it so fantastic. I'm going to be going through in roughly chronological order and talking about some of my favourite themes. I'll also be using some musical jargon, but I'm providing a glossary of terms which you can find down in the description, so even if you don't know anything about musical theory, you hopefully won't get lost. Let's go! Oh boy, I hope you like the Cor Anglais, because it is all over this score.
Daryl's bringing his Cor Anglais.
Remember Prokofiev? Remember Peter and the Wolf? Piano equals Rose, female voice equals the Doctor. Well, in this episode, Blonde the Slitheen gets her own Peter and the Wolf instrument, and it is the Cor Anglais.
Cor Anglais, of course. Probably plays it in the BNP jazz combo.
But why? Well, it certainly cuts nicely through the mix with its nasal timbre. But I think what's more relevant is that it's solo Cor Anglais, because of course Blonde is alone. And while in an episode like Dalek, the use of the choir communicates that the Dalek still very much feels like part of a collective, here the solo instrumentation serves to convey Blonde's sense of isolation. So the first time you hear the theme, you get this chromatic rising line over a drone, starting on the 5th and going up to the major 6th.
If I did know better, I'd almost think that someone wanted this project to go wrong. As though they intended this city should be wiped off the map.
Now this is taken directly from the Slitheen theme, but listen to how different the instrumentation is.
Off the map.
The notes are all still there, but the energy has been sucked out. Now you could argue that this is because Blonde is being stealthier. You know, she's not crashing a spaceship into Big Ben this time, she's just quietly murdering government officials. But there's also a feeling of deflation, like she's just going through the motions and she's had the wind taken out of her sails. And you might think that's not a great way to introduce a threatening villain, but of course, Boomtown isn't about defeating the baddie, it's about what you do after you've defeated the baddie. The other thing I like about this melody is that it keeps flickering between the major and minor third. Ostensibly it's in the key of C minor, but it starts with an E natural, the major third, before seemingly giving up on that and dropping down to an E flat.
Do excuse me. Civic duties leave little time for a sandwich.
And the melody seems to be peppered with these occasional major thirds that sound kind of wrong. It's like a smile, but an insincere one, where you don't really smile with your eyes, so you just sort of look sarcastic. Pretty depressing, really. After the titles, you get this piece of music called Boomtown Suite on the album, and it is my humble opinion that it is bad. Sounds like someone sat on a merry-go-round eating an ice cream. I mean, I guess it establishes the tone that the TARDIS team are out to have a nice, lovely day trip to Cardiff. But God, can you imagine if every time they stepped out the TARDIS you had to hear this? The next time you hear Blonde's theme is when she's about to kill a journalist called Kathy.
But Khalifa seemed to be talking about a nuclear holocaust.
I like how, as she's emerging from her human skin, you hear the Slitheen theme again, but this time it's slower and more foreboding. Again, the danger's still there, but a lot of the energy's been sucked out. The mood changes when Blonde hesitates.
So be it.
And my boyfriend thinks I'm mad. We're getting married next month. And he says if I cause a fuss, I could lose my job. Just when we need the money.
You get this solo flute as Kathy's talking about her fiancé and her pregnancy. It sounds very light and innocent, which is apt as she's oblivious to the danger she's in. Then the Cor Anglais comes back in with the main melody, but this time with the flute harmonising with it.
The 19th. It's really just to stop my mother from nagging, but the baby sort of clinched it, I suppose.
Again, it's very Peter and the Wolf. Blonde is the Cor Anglais, Cathy is the flute. It's a really nice duet representing a moment of genuine connection between these two women. It's sweet, but it's also very sad. You get the sense that neither of them are where they're expected to be in life. So then the Doctor reads a newspaper, and we get Westminster Bridge once again. Which then segues perfectly into a track called Monster Bossa.
Right, here's the plan. Like you said, nice plan.
With its pizzicato strings and cheeky syncopated melodies, it sort of sounds like a dry run for Donna's theme. Now I'm slightly thrown because when I hear the word bossa, I think of this. But then I'm not an expert on Brazilian music, so I'll let it slide. Then you get a super funky mashup of both tracks.
Leave the mayor alone! This music's so funky it makes me want to obey the law.
Speaking of music from earlier in the series, in the next scene you hear the Doctor's theme again.
Blithe Thrug.
What's it mean?
Bad wolf.
But I've heard that before. Bad wolf. I've heard that lots of times.
Everywhere we go. 2 words. Following us.
What's really weird is that the string pad accompaniment is in E, but the vocal melody has been detuned by about half a semitone, so it sounds closer to this. Now just to demonstrate, that's me playing in E5 in the left hand and the melody in E flat minor. But like I say, I think the vocals are actually halfway between those two semitones. Maybe Murray pitch shifted it down, maybe the singer Melanie Pappenheim had a cold that day. Either way, the effect is unsettling, and it really sets up nicely the cosmic horror of the Bad Wolf entity that we'll get to know more in the 2-part finale. Then we're back in the TARDIS, and look who's back in town, Mr. Cor Bloody Anglais.
Each and every one of you.
You deserve it.
This time, the melody uses both the major and minor sixth. Like with the third before, Murray's leaning into that major-minor ambiguity to make you feel uncomfortable.
Oh, Cardiff, Schmardiff. What is this obsession with Cardiff and the young people?
So then Boomtown Suite comes back, and you know what? It's grown on me. Maybe I prefer it in this time signature. It's not a waltz anymore, now it's in 4/4 with a kind of bossa nova rhythm. I guess we got a bossa nova in the end. Also, now that things have gotten a bit darker, I think it recontextualises the track a bit. Where before it sounded like Mickey's Happy Cardiff Adventure, now there's this sort of undercurrent of sarcasm. You know, it's like, yay, the Doctor's gonna have dinner with a woman he's about to execute.
Hello.
Cor Anglais, what are you doing here? It's Blonde, she's escaped! So we've got Blonde's instrument, but she's not there. Crap, does this ruin my Peter and the Wolf theory? Well, not necessarily. Remember when I said in the toilet scene that Cathy and Blonde had this shared acceptance that their lives weren't going the way they'd hoped? I think the Cor Anglais represents that concept as much as it does the character of Blonde. Mickey's made quite a serious admission here, and you can tell from the previous scene that what Blonde said in the TARDIS has had quite a serious effect. All the characters are having to face harsh truths. Blonde's facing the consequences of her actions, the Doctor's facing the fact that he's taken lives, and Mickey and Rose are having to face the fact that they don't really have a relationship anymore. And I think that's what the Cor Anglais represents. Anyway, then there's an earthquake, during which you hear the track New Adventures for the first time.
It's the rift. The rift's opening.
Back to the TARDIS, Blonde chokes Rose, the console opens up, and...
The heart of the TARDIS. This ship's alive. You've opened its soul.
This is a tasty track. The chords are G minor and E flat minor, in keeping with the somber tone of the episode. Now you could achieve the same effect with G minor and E flat major, but it just sounds that bit more alien when you flatten the G on the second chord. And that's what's being communicated here, this sense of wonder and fear, this unknown power. Then the Cor Anglais comes back at this point, because of course it does.
It's the TARDIS. My TARDIS. The best ship in the universe.
It'll make wonderful scrap.
I like to think it's the TARDIS whispering to Blonde, revealing some ancient wisdom to her. It's a great melody, as it's got some really nice clashes with the string chords. You get a top D over an E flat minor chord, making it an E flat minor major 7. A chord rarely heard outside of film noir soundtracks. At this point, the strings take over the melody, and you get the brass counter melody of realization. I should become an egg. Okay, this is classic Philip Glass. Juxtaposed minor chords, woodwind arpeggios in triplets, a sense of foreboding, Lovecraftian terror. Philip Glass.
The rays burn my eyes. How like a turtle the sun looks.
Blonde's theme comes back one final time when Rose is looking for Mickey. That's really good filmmaking, no dialogue required. The music and the expression on the face of this anonymous actor tell you everything you need to know. They may have saved the world from Blonde, but she's clearly had an indelible psychological impact. The final chord has both the major and minor thirds in it, making it an A flat, flat 6. It's a horrible clash, and it comes just as Rose is staring at the egg, and it feels almost like the egg is staring back at her in reproach. What a wonderfully somber way to end an extremely underrated episode. That's all from me today. Join me next time when I'll be talking about the music of Bad Wolf. I've been Dom the Musician. Until next time, remember,